that too.
There's gonna be a couple loud questions.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the, are we recording?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. You want me to start over again?
No. You didn't even start, so you don't need to start over.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Binghamton Local Development Corporation for September. You should have in front of you the minutes from the August 22nd meeting. I'll take a motion whenever anyone's ready. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much. Rachel, the floor is yours.
Okay, so we have two financial reports here. We're gonna do July and August. August is the final report of the year. So that closes us out for our financial year, but we'll start with July. And we'll start on page 4 for the restricted account. At the end of July, the balance in the restricted account was $491,520.05. On the opposite page or the next page, for the loans receivable, everybody paying right along, no delinquencies. On page 6 for the UDAG account, the end of month balance in UDAG was $732,716. And on the following page, everybody paying right along there as well. See, we did have luck contacting one of our delinquent payers and have put them back on their payment plan so that first payment back on the payment plan for quality of life will show up in September. So didn't make it in the previous year, but he's back on track for the current year. In unrestricted, there was not a lot of activity, except our interest, which is great. So that is, interest that comes over from the NI class, which is really great.
We're at 5.1% right now, which is amazing.
Yay.
It just dropped.
Well, I know with
Sorry.
no, I got
I
the
looked-
email last week.
I just looked at it yesterday.
We're gonna talk about basis points in a minute, so.
Yep, gotcha. Yeah, I know.
On the next page for the Triad account, no activity, Mayor's Veterans Initiatives account, no activity, and the grant account, no activity. So at the end of July, the delinquency percentage for all loans not designated as non-performing was 0.23. So moving on to August, and this closes out the fiscal year. So we'll start on page 4 in the in the restricted account. The end of month balance in restricted is $496,767.10. Again, no delinquencies. On page 6 for UDAG, the end of month balance in UDAG is $565,876.94. And same receivables. So no new delinquencies. So moving over to unrestricted, there was a check that came in for insurance that we will pay out to the company that's fixing the sign at the Charles Street Business Park that somebody drove into. Joel was really great in figuring that claim all out and getting that fixed.
Yeah, which took several months. We appreciate that, Joel.
No activity in the Triad account. No activity in Mayor's Veterans Initiatives, and no activity in the grant account. So at the end of the year, the delinquency percentage for all loans not designated as non-performing was 0.23.
And on page 7, Rachel, the L2 Properties loan is
The L2
Closed.
Properties loan is closed, so they make their first payment in September.
Nice.
that's the property on Court Street that they're.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a-
Corner of.
34. 134.
Yeah,
It's good. It's a great project.
Yep.
yeah,
Great.
that'll be,
It's gonna be- They used to be next to me in the train station,
Oh.
my former global headquarters before
Global.
before I closed them.
galactic headquarters.
Like the international.
It was a beautiful office. Anyway, that's another story. So, any questions for Rachel? Thank you, Rachel, very much. We have no old business. We have one item for new business this morning. Resolution 24-24. A resolution of the BLDC to accept the recommendation of the Strategic Priorities Committee to authorize the purchase of holiday lights from Illuminations Lighting. Not to exceed $11,363 to be installed on downtown light poles during the holiday season.
Yes, so one of the things that we've heard from downtown merchants for the past several years is that they want to see more activation in downtown during the holiday season. It's obviously a really important sales time for especially our retail customers or retail merchants. So we've been talking to them for a while. We made a small investment in Washington Street last year in purchasing some new lights and garlands for that kind of spruced up the street. And then this year we had a conversation with the Strategic Priorities Committee about how our marketing dollars might best be spent to promote the merchants downtown. And this idea came up. I have heard from a number of merchants over the years that downtown, they don't feel as bright enough during the holiday season. It's not necessarily as welcoming as they'd like it to be. I know Parks does a great job putting up the lit wreaths on all of the poles on Court Street, but they're not particularly bright. They do have LED lights on them, but they're not necessarily like creating additional light on the corridor. So this was something that has been important to a lot of the merchants downtown. We're purchasing about half the amount that would be needed to light up Court Street, partially as a pilot to, see how they go and see where they can most be effective. And partially just from an economic standpoint to not expend all of those funds in one year. We have $25,000 in our marketing budget, and so this is a significant portion of that. It was important to the Strategic Priorities Committee that we make some level of investment in downtown for the holiday season. I think this will also be bolstered by the Water Street Park and Garage that will be ideally open by Thanksgiving and really promoting a lot of the downtown merchants. Another trend that we're seeing in downtowns, again, not just in New York State, but across the country, is that they are, as we have had office staff and other workers leave downtown, it's becoming more important to create experiences in downtowns. They're becoming more experiential economies than they are the typical lunch crowd, people running errands on their lunch break. Certainly, we still see that happening. You cannot go outside at lunch without seeing someone with a Boscov's bag walking around. But this is just something that we are seeing more and more. So this is a way for us to bolster downtown during the holidays. We'll still be doing our Christmas tree lighting on Small Business Saturday as kind of a node event that we hope will bring people down. But this is just supposed to elevate things during the entirety of the season. Any questions or anything else from the Strategic Priorities Committee that you guys wanted to share?
Can't wait to see them.
Anything?
Can I have a motion? Thank you, Frank. Second.
I'll second.
Let's give it to Mike.
Will do.
Sorry, Mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for your support on that.
Big week for the mayor. We yesterday, I'm gonna steal all your, I won't steal any of your thunder, but the announcement yesterday about what's the name of that project?
Which one, the street or the rec center?
The housing project on the north side.
Oh, Town and Country?
Did we announce that yet or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay, take it away, Mayor. I'm sorry.
I think I was asked about if there was any media coverage, but was that my cue for remarks? Was that my?
I totally.
I guess, yeah.
I was trying to be
Ouch.
clever, but it didn't work.
So, thanks, everyone. I was asked yesterday about updates with Town and Country. That's a kind of a premier priority housing project. Really, the next announcement that comes will be from the governor herself as it relates to that, but everything has been approved at the state level. The agency has set a public hearing date for the pilot, which is just a new pilot because of new ownership. The new group kind of came in when the ball was at the 5-yard line at HCR's request. So that will be exciting. It's a 250+ unit, $46 million project to renovate all apartments in Town and Country. It's one of the things that I spoke about in my budget address as it relates to housing development in the city, in a very mature pipeline that we have for affordable housing projects that, over the next 3 to 4 years, we should see at least one project a year be funded, closed, and under construction, based on advocacy that I've done with state officials, identifying priority sites and priority projects, putting in initial investments into these projects through federal grants like ARPA and like our home allocation to pay for pre-development costs to get them to an application phase and really take away any excuse the state has not to fund housing projects in Binghamton. So, my budget address is online. I thank those of you who were there, certainly the council members, for a more detailed description of kind of all of those different housing projects. Also, in the budget, I wanted to share that, the perspective of specifically, manufacturing in the city, and the fact that there's this undercurrent of outstanding small businesses, manufacturers who are employing a ton of people, and a ton of people that are making good wages with just a high school education. There's C.H. Thompson on the north side. There's Buckingham, right on Revere. Places like Macintosh and Act Plastics and CMP are all operating in the city. A good portion of their workforce who is walking or taking public transit to work. And just the fact that every one of these places is hiring, every one of these places is expanding. Right now, we're working with Buckingham on an expansion project. I was at C.H. Thompson talking about how we're actually going to physically have space for 12 new employees in a new production line. So, all of this is happening, and the fact that we can do it in the urban core is, I think, really important to the future of Broome County, right? Corporate parks are a necessity in a lot of ways, but what urban manufacturing can deliver in terms of ancillary economic development, as well as neighborhood revitalization, is really key. It's one of the reasons why I feel that Clinton Street is so important. We have a major commercial district as we apply for the DRI. It's not just the fact that there's great sites for manufacturing, great folks that are already there, and a commercial district. There's also a great neighborhood and housing stock that's right nearby that can serve those jobs and those families that kind of need it. The other kind of key takeaways that would be relevant for the BLDC is continuing to spend money on infrastructure. The fact that, infrastructure is how all of our businesses operate. It's how people are getting to work. It's making communities walkable, making neighborhoods places where people want to live to fill jobs. And next year, we should be spending roughly $21 million on, some large scale infrastructure projects downtown and on key gateways, but as well as just the, kind of, I call it the blocking and tackling of infrastructure with water lines, sewer lines, sidewalks, and paving. And lastly, keeping a focus on tax stability and balanced budgets. Next year calls for a 0.9% tax levy increase, which if you compare it to a lot of the school districts and a lot of municipalities that are exceeding the tax cap, this is a very conservative number. Certainly, I would want it to zero, but with the realities of inflation and demands for pension costs and health insurance and everything, that just wasn't possible. But working with Chuck Robinson and the finance team, we're able to get a very tight budget and keep tax relief and tax fairness, I think, at the forefront. As I mentioned, I recall a newspaper headline that ran across the state, 2014, 2015, that Binghamton is New York State's property tax king. If you looked at a comparison of home values versus real property taxes, I think Binghamton was some of the highest taxed people in the United States. But that is no longer the case. We have gone down the list in New York State in terms of taxes. We're not out of the top 10, so we still have work to do. We're kind of trending in the right direction there. So City Council has their task now to go through the budget and ask a bunch of questions and get pages passed. But I felt that it was important from an economic development standpoint to just kind of take stock of where we are, remind folks that we have a lot of successful small businesses, specifically in manufacturing, and just that there's a lot more work to do. And, certainly thank the BLDC for the work that they do and getting some of these projects that are really neat, that are really transformative off the drawing boards and making them a reality.
Is there more space for manufacturing in downtown Binghamton rather than just going to Clinton Street?
In terms of, like manufacturing space, I mean, I think that there's still some places that could have manufacturing. I know Joel is kind of the real property wizard here at the city,
You're the
but
man.
a lot of times, one of the problems that we have is people are looking for specific types of space.
Right.
Really high bay,
bays.
is that what it's called? Kind of move-in ready. A lot of the buildings that we have that are available are maybe a little bit off the beaten path, may require a little TLC. And then frankly, the people that get into renovation projects find out that they're spending more on demolition and asbestos abatement than they imagine. But I think there's always space to grow, and we can build more density. We can work with people on issues like parking. These are solvable problems. So we're looking forward to it. It's great.
Good.
And I'll piggyback on that and say our industrial vacancy rate is very, very low. We don't have a ton of available space in the city other than buildings that need significant amounts of renovation. I mean, the Stowe Plaza is kind of a key example of that. But Joel and I actually just had a productive meeting with the owners of 30 Charlotte Street. They were originally talking about a housing project there, which I think long-term they're still interested in, but the numbers just aren't working right now. So they have about 100,000 square feet that they want to build into modular space for manufacturers. We do get a ton of requests for things like that. So that was just, I think, last week.
Right.
So we'll be continuing to talk to them about how we can site some of these, especially coming out of the Kaufman, folks that need 2,000 square feet now, but they might need 15,000 in the future. That building's really well suited for that. It's a little, there's no windows. I think that's kind of the biggest,
Can always
the
put
biggest
windows in.
barrier. Not when you're in a basement, but
Oh.
yeah, I think that's kind of they're really willing to work with anybody who needs space. I think that's going to be really great. And then just continuing to work with property owners on incentives that may be coming out for them to do renovations and build that space, because we know there's a demand for it. The
Are
real
there
estate
grants and
agents are telling
stuff
us.
for asbestos abatement and all that?
There are, I don't know that I know of anything specifically for asbestos abatement, but as part of a larger
Part of
project.
deep cleanup.
Yes, yeah. So Mayor, I don't know if you're done because I can go into mine. That's a good segue.
Yep, all good.
So
Don't I turn this over to you?
why would you like to turn it over?
Barely
to
turned it
me?
over to me.
I thought I did a fine job introducing that, and you knew what I was talking about and you carried it perfectly. Let me just say, for the record that, in the state environment right now with all of the stuff going on, all the competition that Binghamton faces with upstate cities, the thruway corridor and everything going on, I
Right.
think you're really doing a great job of, drawing attention to Binghamton and this other tier, and your housing work is second to none. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I'll put that on the record. And I think I said that reasonably well, so it may love that I made earlier. Sarah, take it away. please.
So one of the things that we are looking to do this fall is to go after an EPA grant for environmental assessments. It's a pretty flexible grant, but one of the things that it's able to do is after you complete phase 1, phase 2 analyses, you can do other site prep work. I'm still kind of exploring what all of the parameters of that program are, but that's something that we're hoping to be able to bring to bear, especially in our brownfield areas, to do remediation on these properties to get them shovel ready for development. So certainly looking forward to putting that, well, that's not true. I'm not looking forward to putting the application together, but I am looking forward to ideally being successful in getting the funds deployed. And that's something we're going to seek to move through the BLDC, just because I think we have additional flexibility. Public authorities are eligible entities for this, and we've seen success in other counties. Herkimer County in particular, their IDA and LDC have been really successful in deploying these funds, and they've been able to get, after these assessment grants, additional grants for cleanup and technical assistance from the EPA and from NJIT, which is our technical service provider for brownfield remediation through the federal government. So it's the beginning, I think, of a conversation on how we can better leverage those resources in Binghamton, but we're kind of an ideal community. We have 3 active brownfield opportunity areas. We have a lot of older, maybe dilapidated building stock that could be remediated. So we're hopeful that that will come to bear on that project. Just want to piggyback on a couple of things the mayor said. I think the tax rate really can't be understated. all of our businesses downtown are struggling. It's not just in Binghamton, it's across the state and across the country. It's just getting harder and harder to make these numbers work. There's only so much you can raise costs for your consumers. But the cost of everything is going up. I know you guys all see that in your budgets as well. So trying to manage that growth, we need the additional money to be able to bring services to the city of Binghamton and make these really necessary improvements. But we also have to be cognizant of our responsibility to those taxpayers who right now are really hurting. And with the Fed dropping interest rates by 50 basis points, I think that will start to help. We're optimistic that the next two rate meetings will be cuts as well through the end of the year. So we'll start to see some of those carrying costs come down, especially on these large scale construction projects, all of which are having a lot of trouble penciling out right now. So we're optimistic that we're moving in the right direction on a macroeconomic level, and that will have positive impacts here in the city. Also just want to echo what the mayor said about urban core employment. I think Buckingham Manufacturing is kind of our key example of that. They located a secondary facility out in Kirkwood, I believe. And they have massive issues getting their staff to Kirkwood. We hear from literally every manufacturer in the city we talk to that their employees are walking, biking, taking public transit, and that the reason that they want to stay and grow in the city is this is where their workforce is. And so it's very important to us to support those businesses, ensure that they have space to expand. Also, to the mayor's point, a lot of these businesses are operating out of facilities that are not up to modern standards. They have low ceilings. They're operating out of kind of I don't even know what to call it. They're like maze-like buildings that were just not built to accommodate modern, efficient manufacturing operations. And these businesses do an incredible job of making use of the space that they have and trying to build efficiencies into their processes. But I mean, some of these are scary. At Plastics, I think all the machinery was about 6 inches from the ceiling, and they're making it work. And they were BAE's Supplier of the Year in 2023. They do awesome work there, but how can we be supporting them in their growth in these buildings that aren't necessarily best suited for them? So I don't have an answer to that problem necessarily, but certainly it's something that we recognize and we appreciate that those employers understand the importance of being located in Binghamton for both their success and the success of our workforce. Another thing that the mayor mentioned kind of in line with the tax increase, I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, general counsel for the New York Conference of Mayors was speaking and really just saying that across the state, all cities are having huge issues trying to make their budgets work. Costs of everything are going up. I know health insurance and pension is just a huge driver of costs. And those are things that we have to pay and we have to make work in the budget. So definitely grateful for how we've been able to manage that. And I hate that we're not alone in this, but it's nice to know that it's not a specific to a City of Binghamton problem. And certainly we're grateful to New York State for increasing our aid to municipalities this year for the first time in 10 years. Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah. So that's been great. And then just on that conference was the New York State Association for Affordable Housing. So I was there with about 500 other folks who work in the affordable housing sphere. Great experience. Actually ran into a couple of the developers that do work here in Binghamton, which was great. One thing that I have been told is that HCR is now communicating to affordable housing developers that Binghamton and Broome County are kind of built out and our pipeline is really strong. We have projects that they want to fund over the next period of years, but given their allocations, we're built out for, they are telling developers, a decade. In the city of Binghamton, we're built out, I think, about 3 or 4 years, but Broome County at large, there are enough projects that HCR could be funding those over the next decade.
HCR.
Homes and Community Renewal, they manage the low-income housing tax credit program for New York State. We are optimistic that next year, well, I shouldn't say optimistic, it's the federal government, so it's hard to be optimistic, but there's a bill that would just about double New York State's capacity to provide incentives to these housing projects. So if that goes through next year, I think we'll see an increase in the amount of funding that HCR is able to provide to these projects, which would ideally cut down on that pipeline, enable us to recruit some additional affordable housing providers. But if HCR is telling developers that affordable is built out in Broome County, I think one of the things we're going to pivot to is how are we now looking at affordable home ownership opportunities? How are we looking at opportunities for infill? We feel like we've done a really good job on the rental market, and we've got hundreds of units in the pipeline at a variety of different support levels, area median income levels, income restriction. And now how do we look to build out kind of the other side of our housing stock, which is those, once we can get people into stable housing, how do we then help them grow into potential homeowners and be building equity for their families? Tito Martinez from the planning department and were also accepted into the New York Furman Center Housing Peer Network. So last Friday, we were in Albany with folks from Newburgh, Kingston, Albany, Wayne County, Utica, I think some other places that I'm totally forgetting, Ithaca, and had a great conversation about the housing challenges that are facing all of us. We were able to talk to a lot of folks from other communities that are facing similar problems to us, and some folks who are farther along, especially on the affordable housing or affordable homeownership programs. So we're excited to learn more about that. We have a piece of legislation that I know council is considering related to our zoning regulations. So continue to be aggressive on housing. As the mayor has said many times, housing is an economic development issue. Every dollar that is being spent on housing is not being spent on childcare, groceries, savings, investment. So when we lower people's housing costs, we give them more choice over what they do with their money and how they participate in the economy. So it's crucially important, and it's something that we are continue to be really aggressive and focused on. Over the next month, I think our office will be pretty busy working on DRI, Downtown Revitalization Initiative. Once more with feeling, we apply for DRI. And we will be,
Go team,
aggressively pushing to be successful in this round. We are up against Ithaca. They're coming back for the first time in a little while with a new plan under their new mayoral leadership. Mayor Cantalmo was at the meeting last week, and he said that he really hopes that next year is Binghamton's year. So I would love to beat him in this. I think we have some friendly competition with Ithaca, but we have a great proposal. I don't think anyone has ever had any complaints about our proposal. It was just that we were up against other forces.
And they've seen we put more money into the area.
Yeah, we've been able to advance some of the projects that were in our
Right.
initial application since then, which I think shows
We're
momentum.
serious.
We're not.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are gonna do this whether they help us or not.
Right.
But it would be this catalytic one-time investment that would really demonstrate that the state is also committed to Binghamton, committed
Right.
to Clinton Street. Byramar is still continuing to build out their manufacturing presence at 22 Charles. We expect to have a more formal announcement about that next month with our state partners who are involved in that project. So won't give too much away at this point, but things are moving forward really positively, and we're excited to see how that proceeds. We're getting word that the cannabis application that you guys all supported last December, that they will make a decision in October or November. Of course, we have heard this before. We will continue to just check in with them and see. Really, we are at the mercy of the state on that. But I think that's a really strong application. I met with the CEO when I was out in California a few months ago. I just think that they're really doing this right. They understand the industry. They understand their competition, especially with PharmaCann building a 300,000 square foot facility with 100,000 square feet of actual grow in the Hudson Valley, and how, Orange County. Binghamton University graduate Connor Eckert involved in that project. So I like to tease him about that, but he has invited us to come down and kind of see what that looks like at a
I'd
large
like to
scale.
know.
Oh yeah, we can do a little bus trip. So I think they have their heads on straight, and they want this project to happen. They want to come to Binghamton, and we're hopeful the state will again see that vision and make that investment, and things at Charles Street will continue to move forward and advance. That's all for me after I talk for 20 minutes.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Congratulations. It's great. It's great stuff.
You can congratulate me when we win the money. How about that?
Yes.
So we're gonna work hard on that. We're gonna work hard on making that happen. But the mayor has one more thing.
Yeah, I just want to introduce Madeline Chantillo. She's in the corner. She is new in our office of the mayor for assistant to the mayor for neighborhood and youth affairs. She took over for Grace Doherty, who left for a job in the court system. This is Madeline's second week. Her first day was the budget address, so it was like from the fire hose, but she's been doing great so far, and I just wanted her to check out a BLDC meeting. She's doing a lot of that over the next couple weeks.
Welcome.
Welcome.
That's all I have.
Thank
Do
you, Aaron.
you guys want to introduce yourselves to Madeline? And go around.
Sure. I'm Patrick.
He's the president of the BLDC, Patrick Doyle.
You know the mayor, Madeline. Go ahead, Frank.
Hi, Madeline, I'm John, Building and Construction Trades Company.
We met.
Kavanaugh.
Susan Farrell, I'm obviously on the board and I'm with Tioga State Bank.
Betsy Kaufman, real estate developer and on the board of the incubator.
So Boyd, we've met.
Hi, I'm Janine. I'm from the Economic Development Office. She was out getting married, so.
Just a minor detail. Congratulations, Janine.
Congratulations. All right.
And we've also met.
I want to commend Frank. Frank was in Washington yesterday, appearing before the House Small Business Subcommittee. And you did a great job representing the region, so thank you for that. Congratulations. It's online, so if you've got some time and you want to watch Frank speak, you can see it on the internet.
32-minute mark, is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah.
Right about there, 33.
33.
33. First congressional hearing.
That's exciting. Good for you.
It's a big.
Very cool experience. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Anything else for the group this morning?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you, Mr.
Aye.
Kelly. All in
Okay.
favor? Okay,
Aye.
thanks all for you.